Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
It's just Darcy.
There it is.
And this is Big Geek Umar. How y'all doing today?
Good, man. Good. How you doing?
I found myself a lamp. It's really, really old.
Yeah, and you look really, really red.
Darcy can't even look at me right now.
I'm just dying because, like, once you said that, I'm like, is it a heat lamp? Is it a sun lamp? Like, what is it? He's like, yeah, I found a lamp, and then he like turns to the side. It's like a tanning bed lamp. Like, oh, just his face.
Yeah. You look like you belong in the Willy Wonka chocolate factory, bro.
Oh,
damn!
I'm sorry, bro.
Sucked up one of those tubes into the chocolate room.
You're like the tallest Oompa Loompa in there, bro.
Taller than everyone else in that show, in that entire book.
Yo, he's like 5 Oompa Loompas stacked. Yeah. You see like the Oompa Loompas and Umar on a basketball court, and they're like holding each other up, trying to get past.
I'm like Will Ferrell from Elf in like the Oompa world.
Yeah, so this is not the topic of today. It's just where we're at.
Well, actually, Tactix has got the topic of the day.
Oh, so that I'm just okay. Was not expecting that. You kind of threw me off there, but
I know. I just kind of like volleyed to you. That was not a volley. That was totally a bat. But like, I don't know sports. Go on, Tactics.
Okay, so the first topic is a conversation that I had, and we were discussing why Batman doesn't kill villains, primarily the Joker, and should he?
Ooh, okay. Darcy, do you have an answer, or should I go first? Oh wait, actually, Tactics, do you want to take this off?
No, y'all can go first. I wanna see what you guys have to say, and then I'll chime in.
I was waiting for anybody but me to go first.
I'll go. Darcy's just like.
No, and Umar, before, it's not a bat, it's a bunt, is what you were trying to say. When you bunt the ball with the bat over to somebody. It's like sports. I don't compute.
Like, honestly, the only thing like sports related I can understand is like when people talk about the Super Bowl, because I've watched Endgame, so now I understand the Super Bowl reaction.
Yeah, man, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so why does Batman not kill, or should he? Or should he?
Both.
Well, I would say that. Are we looking at it from like a character perspective, or are we talking from like a socio-political perspective of why they did it?
Of why? Who did it?
The writers / creators.
Well, let's address both, starting with the first one.
So, like, just a little bit of a bit of comic book history. Batman actually started out with a gun. For like I think the first like couple of years, like for his first iteration, he had a gun, and like I think there was like at one point he actually sniped some dude for like the greater good. But I can't remember which guy it was, but someone came to Bob Kane and was like, I don't like this. I think we should get rid of the gun entirely. We don't want to have a vigilante who kind of like just takes the law in his own hands and starts like dealing out like punishment. Also, around this time, Superman had kind of like, I think at this point, Superman had been in the game for a while. And they're like, we don't want to have like Superman having to deal with like the dark killer version of himself. So let's kind of like, let's keep it like on that spectrum where Batman has the morality. So that's why they did it in the comic books. In terms of why he doesn't kill as a character, he's always described it as if he like, well, in Under the Red Hood, which is I think the most recent discussion they've had about it that I'm aware of, he basically was saying, if I do it, I will never be able to stop. It just will be, I will kill literally all the criminals, and I will lose my soul as a result of this. I would say that the reason why the hero, like Batman himself, well, minus in Batman and 1989 and Batman Return, where he fucking killed everybody. Like, I'm actually wondering if he actually didn't kill someone. Because I remember in Batman Returns, he put like a bomb on someone and like threw him down into a sewer.
And he smiled while he did it. You know? He
Yeah.
knew what was up. That's the only time you see Batman smile in the Tim Burton version.
That's
I
true.
want to can't be lying. Like, is this a stink bomb?
On the Arnold Schwarzenegger level.
Yeah, exactly.
So like for me, I would say that I prefer him not killing. When he starts killing, it takes me out of the entire thing. You know. But also, I like the fact that he has this line that he refuses to cross. Like he does break a lot of laws and bones. He's like the closest to a torturer that the superheroes have, because he dangles people for buildings and be like, "Yo, talk to me."
Yeah. And you know that stuff like dislocates people's legs, and like they're like in The Dark Knight when he dropped what's his name, the whatever crime boss off of like 4 stories, and you hear the bones shattering, you're like, ah.
And also he's like, I also like what he says, like, "Yo, from one professional to another, dude, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm hoping it doesn't kill you. Drop." That's
no. He says he's like, you like what, like, you know this won't kill me. He's like, I'm planning on
it. But yeah, I like the fact that he doesn't kill, because I can see it. It is like it's a slippery slope mentality. If I do it once, it'll be easier for me to do it again. And then, I mean, he's dealing with like truly horrendous individuals. At a certain point, it's like if I killed this guy, I mean, this guy's not much better. In fact, this guy is even worse. So that sort of thing. So I think he's the official reason is because of the slippery slope mentality.
Interesting.
Darcy?
Yeah. I don't know. For me, like, I'm not an expert on this, so I don't have like the ability to weigh in heavy. But the funny thing is even though I knew this topic was coming up, I didn't actually research for it. I happened to ironically watch a video on Zack Snyder, like basically why the movie suck, and like why Man of Steel and BVS suck was basically what the movie encapsulated. And it was interesting going into talking about like the core, the core value of Batman is that he doesn't kill, that like he has that one line, and then Zack Snyder just basically doesn't like disregards everything about the character and just like does what he wants to do from a surface level. Oh, look, I'm getting riled up already. And so
you say Zack Snyder, and I'm like, oh, those be fighting words, man.
You know, and like I agree. Like Batman has to have that thing, and the thing I think is good about it from an entertainment perspective. Let's take away all the psychology. Like the entertainment aspect of it is that it presents like a lot of circumstances where he has to find a way to solve the problem that would have been more easily solved, right, if he killed him. So it means that like you might be more surprised by how it ends, right? Like how like Spider-Man will do something really interesting when he finally catches the guy at the end and takes him down, but doesn't kill him. How they do that might be the most interesting thing in a scene, and that's something I really enjoy about the character. Don't get me wrong, I like the Punisher, and you know when he walks through that room, everything's gonna be an interesting takedown, but that motherfuckers might die or probably gonna die, right? But like it's still entertaining. It's not even John Wick, who's like he's not even like it's not even gonna be like spectacular. It's just gonna be fast, right? No. But yeah, it's just like there's that intention that it creates, and like, how does this end, right? You don't really know. Whereas if he did kill all the time, with how skilled he is and the world that's painted around him, there'd be a lot of the scenes can get boring quick, because it would just be like he knows how to kill them all like really easily. So it'd just be like walking around, pop, 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 and they're all dead again. Oh, that's what I'm gonna throw out here. I want to hear what Tax has to say, and then maybe I'll throw some thoughts in as I hear more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the points. I think for me, kind of piggybacking off of what Umar said, Batman's a fucking lunatic. Like he's not wrapped too tight, clearly. I mean, he's a guy dressed as a bat fighting crime, like in his spare time. You know what I mean? And on top of that, if you just look at some of the actions that he's done, he adopts orphans and has them fight crime as well. Like, that's not the action of a sane person. And so despite that, he knows his limitations in the sense of, if he is to cross that line with the Joker, and I mean, granted, there is a valid, strong argument for, if Batman were to end the Joker's life, then there's the potential that he would save thousands of people as a result of that, right? But I was reading the book. I was telling Umar off camera, Batman and Philosophy, and they actually touch on on the notion of, they call it pre-punishment, and it's a concept that was utilized in the Minority Report, where people are punished before their actual crimes, before they actually commit a crime, and the ethical implications of that, in terms of, like, is it right to assume that this is the action that's going to be carried out, like assuming that a person is going to commit a crime in the future? Is it right for you to pre-punish them? And it's like, with the Joker, they make the argument in this book saying that, you're making an assumption that Joker is going to kill again, and not giving him the possibility or the opportunity to reform, which he's supposedly done in the comics before, momentarily, and then he's kind of reverted back
for like literally a moment.
Yeah, so it's like,
and that was with the Martian Manhunter to like do that.
Yeah, so they make the argument that, okay, well, you're making the assumption that Joker is beyond saving and can't be reformed, and who's to say that he won't? Who's to say that he won't just give up his reign on terror and reform to being a decent, civilized human being, right? And on top of that, yeah, I agree. But in addition to that, it's also like, Batman is not. At the end of the day, Batman's a vigilante. He's not the law. He's operating outside of the law. And if he acts if he kind of approaches it like the way the Punisher does, in the sense of, like, he just takes lives of villains and stuff like that, then being out, he's not wrapped too tight, that's just going to push him over the edge. Because it's like, the Dark Knight kind of alludes to the fact that Batman and the Joker are kind of two sides of the same coin, and they play up the fact of him. They play up the whole notion of, like, the quote being, "You're just one bad day away from being me," kind of thing, or like one bad day away from being crazy, or like what he said about. Yeah, it's like what he was saying about Harvey Dent, about how, crazy as is not hard. It's like gravity. All it needs is a little push, right? And so Batman doesn't want to be pushed over that edge, because then there's no coming back from that. Yeah. If he rationalizes and says, okay, so, I'm going to take Joker's life because, if I don't, then all of these people are going to end up dying in the future, or there's a possibility that these people are going to die in the future. And by killing him, I'm preventing that. But then you have to ask yourself, where do you draw the line? You know what I mean? Because, like, let's say we take someone like Joker, and then we take someone like the Riddler, who, I don't really know how heinous the Riddler is, in terms of, like,
he's done some shit.
Yeah, but is it like, so you have to ask yourself, are there levels? Like, it's like, a person who does like a petty crime, is he like because Batman's operating outside of the law, what's his law now? Where does he draw the line and say, okay, like, you've murdered this many people, so you deserve to die, versus a person who killed someone, who shot someone during a robbery or whatever like that, one time, right? Yes, the person died, but technically that person's still a murderer. So does that mean that Batman is now going to kill this person? Because there's a chance that if this guy goes out again, he might rob another bank, maybe kill two people next time. So it's like, when you're operating under that notion of, like, oh, there's a possibility that this person might kill again, it's like, how do you differentiate the two in terms of, like, who gets spared for their wrongdoing and who gets the ultimate axe? Yeah. Right?
Well, I think that another question this invokes is kind of something that was asked quite clearly in Under the Red Hood, where it's like, you're ignoring the entire graveyards this one individual has basically filled. And also, this is someone who, like, their entire mentality is towards this. And so is Batman actually being selfish in the fact that he's maintaining his own moral code at the expense of, like, because conceivably he is the only one now, granted, like his other, like Batgirl, Robin, Red Hood, like all those, and like Red Robin, like all those people are equally as capable of being able to some degree handle the Joker and like arrest him, hypothetically speaking. But are they all just, you know, being selfish and maintaining their own moral standing at the expense of dozens or hundreds of lives?
But is that his job, though? I mean, if the police won't even cross that line, then why? Like, you know, and the fact that they're okay with him being a vigilante, for him to then now go and take the law even further into his own hands, just kind of goes against him, and then makes him now a target. Because it's like, yo, like, we thought we had, like, if I'm the commissioner and I'm like thinking trying to think rationally, I'm like, okay, well, you know, the Batman, we can't really stop him, but at least if we can at least work with him, we can probably come to some sort of agreement and help each other out. But if he crosses that line, now it's just like, okay, well, we have this not superpowered being, but we have this badass motherfucker who's, you know, climbing on rooftops and shit like that and taking out villains and whatnot. And we can't control this guy. We thought we had him in check, but now he's out here, like, you know, dropping bodies like it's nothing. It's like, well, what are we gonna do now? Now we got to worry about villains and the Batman. Right, so
you know, something that just kind of all this makes me think of is that is the law in the superhero world fundamentally, in, like, how to put this, not complex enough. So the point that I'm trying to get at here is, like, to the idea that if Batman were to be tried for all the crimes he's committed, he might actually have more crimes than all of his supervillains combined, right? Just like, and there'd be lots of small ones, right? Like assault and battery, you know,
breaking and entering, trespassing,
stalking, like
what is it? What is it? The thing, like, when you're getting in the way of a police investigation, obstruction of justice,
speeding charges, like, you know, like he probably have charges that we don't know about in terms of like breaking airway laws, you know, and like all kinds of stuff, right? And he'd probably have more in volume, but not necessarily in severity. Because, like, obviously the Joker kills like 1,000 people and you have 100,000 like traffic laws. Like, I mean, like, there's a difference. There's a difference, right? But fundamentally, it's like, if you're in that world, does the law need to upgrade? Because to say like, well, he broke the law, so he must pay for his crimes. And you add up all his crimes and Batman goes to jail for like 10 years and then a bunch of other people go kill people in his absence, right? And it causes more harm, right? And so now the law has to be weighted against the columns of like, were the crimes hurting society or hurting people that were hurting society? Well, right, and is that 1 plus minus 1 equals 0, right?
Well,
like,
remember, he was a criminal initially, right? So, like, they were already aware. Like, I mean, they harp on the whole vigilante thing, but I'm sure they kind of considered all the other like crimes that you're referring to. So.
And most all these superhero things do that. Even Superman's in that whole thing, right? He's a vigilante, blah 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 blah.
No, but he's not. Superman's not. He's actually like publicly and politically and like in all aspects, he is completely endorsed by the institution. He's not.
Yes, but I mean, like,
vigilante.
Why is that?
You can make the argument that when he first comes, like, they're like, what is he and what do you do with that, right? Like,
he's doing the Good Samaritan stuff. Because, like, he comes in saving people, and then he to answer your question, Tactix, it's like he goes to the mayor, he goes to the president, he goes to the police chief, he goes to, and he's working with them.
Got you.
And so, he's all, well, I don't know what the New 52 did, because I remember him like standing up to a cop and be like, "What are you going to do about it?" Anyway,
so Batman's more taking the ask for forgiveness, not permission.
No, he's completely in the face because basically, fundamentally, what's wrong? Like Batman was created because there is a fundamental lack in Gotham.
Mm.
The institution is corrupt. The institutions are corrupt. The people are criminal and corrupt. All the people are in power are out for themselves, and it's creating a great deal of problems. And even with Batman and his entire like crew, like the Bat family, along with the police and Commissioner Gordon, they're not able to keep up with all the villainy and corruption in Gotham.
But then, so is this a fair assessment though? Like, because I mean, they also highlight this in Batman Begins, where Commissioner Gordon talks about escalation in the sense of, you know, the Gotham was already in the state that it was in prior to Batman showing up, and when Batman became present, he was really only just taking on like low-level thugs and like mobsters and stuff like that, and then it escalated into these more theatrical characters, like supervillains, right? So it's like, is he making it worse by him being a presence in Gotham?
Well, that is the question, because and they even touched upon this in Captain America: Civil War, where Vision was talking about is like just like Batman, their strength invites challenge, and challenge creates conflict. Now, the criminal element was profound, and they say it constantly in terms of corruption and criminality. Nature upholds a vacuum. So once someone is removed, you need things to be in place to keep that from happening. But if you leave it as is, there will be others who will fill it in, and that's essentially what Gotham is. It's just a cesspool that keeps getting bigger, and because Batman has come in, what the comics are showing is that there has been escalation, and frankly, in all comic book heroes, there is that, because even Spider-Man, he shows up, and then all of a sudden, all these like insectoid supervillains come in, like Venom, Vulture, Dr. Octopus. So maybe not insectoids, but like more like Animal Kingdom, Rhino. So
then the superheroes are the real villains, then.
Well, that's
by default.
Superheroes are they're the new style of cops. And that kind of goes into like a discussion about the superhero genre in itself, because I was watching a video I sent to you guys, which was basically like an analysis of the superhero trope, and also like why people are so into it. It's by The Take. I'll put it for anyone who would be interested in learning more about it. I did take notes, but like anyone who wants to think about it more, I'll put it in our description when we post this. But there is the element of, why do we crave superhero films? And also, because we love Batman, why do we need more Batman films? And that ultimately goes back to, do we want him to kill, or do we like him because he doesn't kill?
To the last point, or the last question, I didn't even so obviously my first real introduction to Batman was Tim Burton's Batman '89 film, and didn't even think twice about the fact that this dude was killing people. And then as the Batman lore started to kind of grow and expand, and in the animated shows, they really highlighted the whole his whole principle, or his moral ethics behind him not killing. Then that kind of became something I started to latch onto, and I was like, oh, okay, well, when the initial argument of Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman came to be, and they were like, oh man, like look at it, he's killing all these motherfuckers and shit, like this isn't Batman or whatever. And I was just like, okay, well, I like the fact that I like this new element of him not killing, and especially when they showcased that in Batman Beyond, and it was like the first opening scene where he picks up a gun for the first time, and he feels so destroyed after that. Like he's just like, I can't believe it's come to this, where it's like the same thing that's killed my parents. I was ultimately going to use this to take a life. I can't do this anymore, right? So I really like that struggle and that battle that he has to constantly endure. At the same time, I didn't really have, it didn't bother me. That was the one thing that didn't bother me about Batman v Superman, when like he was like just like killing people. I mean, it's a little out of place considering that we're now used to that moral compass that he has. But I didn't think twice about it. But now going forward, yes, I do like the element of him not taking a life and actually standing his moral ground, because it separates him from the villains.
That kind of follows a little bit of what the video was saying about like superhero genre in general, because like and also comic books. Like when it started, it was very black and white. Like good versus evil. You kill the evil, that means the good people live, and like and the evil is vanquished forever. That sort of element. But now we've created a more like it's almost asking the question: are we creating more problems, or I should say, is Batman creating more problems than he's solving? Kind of what you were saying before, and he is very much going back to your point, Darcy, in terms of like what you were describing, all the violations of laws that he's doing. That's a very ends justify the means perspective or philosophy, if you really want to like look at it.
With the exception of killing, or not killing,
like, but that's also that's true. Like that's like the one asset, and that's like the one thing. It's like that's irreversible. Not that you can reverse trespassing, but like I guess, you can be like, hey man, like I came into your house a bunch of times and took some stuff.
You just walk in the house and walk out backwards doing a moonwalk and just like reversed.
But yeah, so it kind of creates this like Batman is relatable. Now, granted, I assume all of us have our favorite superheroes that we are related to for whatever reason. For me, I just, there are a lot of aspects that I find inspiring about Batman, but he does create a very moral issue in the fact that like he's making things more difficult, or is he making things more difficult, or is he just like the beat cop?
I think he is making things a little bit. Sorry, Darcy, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
You got like halfway through that line. You got to finish what you were saying.
No, I was just gonna say I definitely think he is making things a little bit more difficult on the basis of escalation, right? Because like I said, as soon as he showed up, that's when shit started. Like, I mean, shit was already bad, and then I felt like it got worse, and it continues to get worse. Yeah, he makes progress, but it's like he's still dealing with the same villain. So it's like, how much progress is he really making? And then to the point about the not killing aspect. I know you and I, Umar, have our reservations about Man of Steel. But one aspect that I did like about that, and I know you'll disagree, is how tormented Superman was for taking God's life. Like the struggle and the angst that he showed from actually having done that. Yeah. And then now I feel like if they were to continue this series, it's like him still dealing with that and be like, I could never do this again, no matter who the being that I'm going up against. Like, this is just not the type of character that I want to represent. And it strips me away from my humanity if I take a life like that. And that's why I liked that element. And I think with Batman, it's similar in a sense, where it's like he's got a limitation there, where it's like the ends justify the means to a point.
Yeah. Darce?
I don't know. My brain, like when we were talking about this and I was thinking about that video, I was thinking about the part of the video that talks about like the Greek mythology and the like, why do we idolize these heroes and why do we even want them? And you're saying like, I forgot the point you're saying. I have this thought in my head. So I keep thinking about the Brampton Batman. You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That guy's dope, man. I love that guy.
And I was thinking about like how much we want superheroes that we want them in our real life. but do we really want them that much? Because like all these stories of these superheroes, they were talking about like the origins of them, like, and there are extreme situations. Like, would Batman be able to be what he is if he didn't start rich and then lose his parents that way? Like, what if he lost his parents and he wasn't rich and had to earn the money to get to that point? But then he would have to transcend through society, and how much would that affect his moral compass by the time he got there to like be able to have the resources? Like, let's say hypothetically someone wanted to write an alternate universe story like that, right? And he has to transcend through the normal society. Would that shift him so much that he wouldn't be what he is, and he wouldn't be so fixated in his moral compass? You know, if Superman wasn't above all of it and landed where he was, and we have the story of like gods and monsters and how that affects him, right? Like a lot of these superheroes, they're so, I mean, they're not perfectly clean, but they're like, they do the right thing and they have that moral compass that's so strong that is justified and explained in their origins. But what if their origins were much closer to us? And, you know, I don't know, it's like we love them because they're like gods, because they have a certain set of circumstances set up in such a way that we ourselves probably wouldn't make the same choices because of our society. And sorry, I just can't stop thinking about that. So like, I know I'm not really responding to what you're saying, but like you said a couple things and that like stuck in my head, and it's all I can think about. That's why I'm sitting here so damn quiet.
Well, it kind of goes back. Sorry, Tactix, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to ask, have you guys ever heard of the guy by the name of Phoenix Jones?
Googling.
No.
So it's a guy who, I can't remember where he's located, but he dresses up as a superhero and he goes out, like, this is a real person. Like, he goes out and he fights crime. And he's been, like he goes to like nightclubs and shit like that, and he like patrols and shit and like looks for drug dealers and all this shit, right? Okay. And he was keeping himself hidden for a while. Yeah, and then he inspired like a league of other heroes to go out and like, it was on the same level as like Kick-Ass the movie. Like, it was like literally on that shit. And for the longest time, like, he didn't reveal his secret identity, and he actually can fight. So he has like a jiu-jitsu background or whatever. And yeah, he was, and then eventually he ended up he got stabbed a couple of times, but he was okay. And then he had to reveal himself to the police after a while. And so shared his secret identity and then still continued patrolling. But then recently there was a story that came out that he was arrested for trafficking drugs or some shit like that. And so it was like, as you were talking about that, Darcy, it reminded me of that, because it's like, well, okay, like, this person doesn't have the same circumstances as, let's say, a Bruce Wayne who has all the resources or whatever. And it's like, this dude he has a regular job by day, and then by night he's out here patrolling. But, you know, to what point it's like, okay, well, yo, money's kind of tight right now. You know, now that I've revealed myself, like, my job ain't taking me seriously. They're cutting back on my hours. I gotta make money somehow. I know all the connections because I put a lot of these drug dealers away. So now, yo, hook a brother up, yo. Like, I could play both sides. You know what I'm saying? And then, yeah, sure enough, this dude got caught, and he's doing time now.
Well, it kind of goes back to like what the like. I know you were inspired by what we were saying, and also what the video was saying, Darcy. So in the video, they were also talking about how superheroes, like the whole point of superheroes and why people keep going back to it, is the idea of the American monomyth term, where it's kind of what we were discussing about Gotham. Normal institutions, or like the established institutions that are supposed to maintain society, fail to respond or are corrupted themselves. As a result, the selfless hero comes in, rejects temptation, and then provides its redemptive tasks to fix everything. So that is what superheroes are always kind of do, and everyone is kind of like having their own spin on it. With Batman, he, like, I guess, going back to the original question, Batman is one side of the debate for Gotham, where it's like his temptation is murder, and his self-sacrifice and like putting his body and his money and his like all that through all the shit that he's been through just to kind of like keep people safe. And the Joker is the other side, where he's like, destroy everything and kill whoever you want to make your point or to do what you want. So the debate can, the reason why, I guess from like a writer's perspective, why they, even though at this point it's gotten to such a degree that it makes no sense why he, like, it's like the Joker has proven he is irredeemable. Like even a telepath can't keep his madness at bay. It's just like, yo, man, I can hold him for 5 minutes and then he's going right back to crazy town. So like, it makes sense. It's like, why hasn't Gotham killed him? Like, why? Like, I feel he was bad enough that you can, like, he's essentially a mass murderer, close to the level of like, you know, the great dictators of the world. Like, want to see how many people Adolf Hitler killed? How many people did the Joker did? Like, what are we looking at here?
Yo, I got a simple question. Does Gotham not have the death penalty?
That was also another question I was going to put out. Like, if they have the death penalty, how did he miss that?
Yeah.
Well, how does it work in terms of, like, let's say if he pleads insanity, like
he's been constantly pleading insanity, and actually at one point he got what was it called? It's when you're an international individual and you are diplomatic immunity.
Diplomatic immunity.
You got diplomatic immunity, and everyone's like, "How the? He was born and raised in like." But that's the institution. The institution was protecting him, and so they're basically they are the conversation. Batman and Joker are the debate over the extreme responses to the immorality of Gotham. They're both the extremes, like, and everyone else is caught in the middle.
So damn interesting.
Agreed.
But okay, so here's a question that superhero. I think Captain America, like the movies, kind of brought this up in a very mild level, but like, is mankind worth saving in its current iteration? Because I know you don't follow politics tactics, but even you must have heard that like there was an election recently in America, and like
I think it's gonna reference something that was like less widely known. It's like, you may have heard of Donald Trump,
but like also like you may have also heard that it was a deeply polarizing and like, you know, relatively close sort of situation. So that leads to a question, like, if we're like 51% people are willing not to go into a backwards authoritarian version, that's not a high margin, which is kind of like, is mankind worth? And that's like a cynical point of view. And that kind of goes into like what's going on in Gotham. Is Gotham even worth saving? Like, if it's to such a degree that the institutions are corrupt and even Batman going outside of the law is not even, it's basically put it right back to where it was before he showed up. What's the point?
You know, going on that is humanity worth saving thing in Captain America. I can't remember if I talked about this on the podcast or I just talked about this like off the podcast with friends. So I just forgive me if I am repeating myself or not. But I had this statement that morality is decided one by the individual, but societal morality is decided by what the society agrees and majority on. Right? Like, a lot of things are that we were like, this is completely immoral. This is things that, you know, this is what's the right thing to do. But it's only true in society if the majority of society agrees with it. Otherwise,
what constitutes the majority, though?
What's that?
What constitutes the majority? Like, that's also something that the American election kind of proved to us, which also kind of goes towards in the comic books. The majority is ordinarily, because it's an American-based industry, it's 51%.
Yeah, like the one of the things I this is gonna sound so totally weird. Like, obviously, I don't believe that racism is correct, but a good majority of the world for a long period of time believed that it was actually morally correct.
And legal,
right?
It's the institution.
So yeah, institution, you could take the institution out of it. Just take like the whole like legal parts out of it, and just like if you were to walk down the street in any society and poll all the people, go to their homes and ask them a question and just get them to check off like in a very like black or white, yes or no, do I believe these people are human or whatever, right? And you go down that thing, and then the majority of people said, yeah, this is what we believe, then their actions are morally just by society standards, which is horrible, but that's a reality. So like, is society worth saving? In that argument kind of comes down to, what does the majority believe, right? Or do you have, when you have that one person who makes that decision, then you become the criminal because you're the one who makes a decision against everybody else without their opinion. It's like, it's a weird thing, but it's just like to state that a lot of these things are only true if everybody agrees to it.
That's an interesting point, because think of Captain America in the MCU. I haven't really read a lot of his comics, so I don't really know if he's like that in the comics right now. But let me ask both of you. Captain America, he started out as a guy who wanted to serve in like a very simple time. It's like, America good, Nazis bad, we need to stop. He signs up, he wants to do his part, he signs up and becomes Captain America. He goes over, fights the war, wins the war, sacrifices himself, wakes up into the future in a deeply complicated situation. Political situation, just everything like that. He then also tries to do the same thing. I think it was in Civil War. He's like, when he was talking to Peggy, the old Peggy, he's like, I tried to go back and follow orders, but it's just not the same. And then he becomes a rebel, or he's someone who fights the institution. He's because he's like, the punishment should not should come after the crime. It shouldn't come before it. And don't put a gun to the head of everybody and call it freedom. It's fear. And then after that, when he became the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., people were like, or he became the head of Avengers, and he had like unlimited power. Civil War happened, and they're like, we need to put you in check. And he said, no, like, I shouldn't be put in check. And then, he went on the run because he chose not to be part of it, and he still felt like he needed to fight things. So kind of, what does that say? Are now all of our heroes are living in a deeply complicated modern age. So therefore, what would be considered morally right for any of them? And it goes right back to Tactix, your question. Is it morally right for him not to kill the Joker? Because I can guarantee you, based on what Darcy just said about like what society and wants a majority of, I think Joker's killed enough of Gotham to like for everybody to be like, yo, kill that motherfucker.
But then is that his responsibility, or is that the responsibility of the law? Like, do we allow him to take that action, or?
But if the law is corrupt and is protecting him, shouldn't it be his position?
Yeah, that's interesting, because like, for instance, at the end of the day, even my argument of saying majority of people, right? We all have to set our own individual set of morals, our own individual set of values and principles, and then hopefully, the majority of us agree on a lot of those things, right?
Yeah.
And so Batman has to have his principle, and I don't think that Batman should kill because the society won't give him the death penalty, right? Like the institution. I think Batman should hold true because it's important for him to be able to maintain who he is. But it's really like, how do I put this? Because let's say he's deserving of the death penalty,
mm-hmm.
and the institutions won't do it. It doesn't mean that it falls to Batman to do it. It should then be. It's like you almost have to escalate it, right? You either have to have one or two problems. You have to solve the institution, or you say, no, the institution is still correct, arguably, and then you got to find somebody else. Like Wonder Woman. Just bring Wonder Woman in. She had no fucking problem with this shit. It'd be like, it's done, okay? You just need, like, this. She'd be like, all right, just, I don't know, make him reach for a cookie jar or something he's not supposed to reach for so I can handle this, okay? So I need a little justification. It's like the last straw was the cookie jar.
It's interesting that you said about personal morality, because, like, I know I keep bringing up Captain America, but, like, he had, like, in the MCU, he has his own personal moral code, which is arguably superior to the institutions established morals, and it is the only thing that he is defending. Because, like, for example, Civil War can that entire movie can be summed up as Captain America thinks he knows better. And so therefore he said no. Was he right? Like, he was imposing his personal moral code, which has been infallible for, like, literally the entire series up to that point. Is Batman's moral code, so therefore, like, should we be following his perspective? Because I know you guys don't read the comics, but, like, something that's happening in current comics, there's something called the Joker War happened, where Joker actually stole all of Batman's wealth and tied up the courts, and actually technically made his, like, gang war, like, basically he got all the crazy people, or even, like, it turned into, like, the Purge, where, like, even, like, regular everyday, like, crappy individuals put, like, some sort of, like, clown mask on and beat people, and that was technically legal. The police were not allowed to get involved. And, like, the institutions got in the way. And since then, Batman has, you know, saved the city, but his situation is much worse. Everyone views him as the problem. And so he's trying to, like, win back everyone. And he's actually not, like, there's another hero who's come in who actually is killing people. And he's like, Bruce, you, like, Batman, you've done this the wrong way. Here, let me show you. I've like taken these people out. I've taken these people out. I've taken these people out. And Batman's like, I knew about all those people ahead of time. I'm trying to find the person who's in charge of that group. I'm trying to get a RICO case for a conspiracy for all those people in that one. Like, he was trying to still go about it by the law, but that was taking time, and they were still doing stuff. So where does, in, like, the modern age of all these levels of corruption in Gotham, if you want to look at it, in America, if you want to look at it, like, at one point, where does the personal morals versus the societal morals versus the institutional morals, like, where do you find the common ground?
Shit, I don't know.
There's a lot there. I had totally other random thought, and I'm like, I can't transition off what you just said to what I was
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, you went deep.
I don't know, it's too heavy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna throw my random thought because I don't think either of us got anything to respond to that.
I got nothing, bro. I got nothing.
So my random thought is this: what if Captain America, and I don't know the comics, but I almost would like to see a redemption of growth story in Captain America, of him being either slightly, this is gonna sound weird again, slightly, like, people just drop and stuff around me right now. Like, he's okay. Let me put it this way: Captain America is, in what time frame was he originally, before he got the serum? Like the 50s?
No, he was in the 40s.
40s. Okay, I don't know, Umar. That's what I asked.
World War, man. World War II.
Bro, it was a question, okay? Like, don't hate on me, bro. Okay?
I'm sorry.
Like, I'm not a historian, like, okay? Don't be out here, like, put me on blast in front of people like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn. Anyways, so he's a white man, yes, a meek white man from the 40s, okay? So even though he's meek, and that would make him more empathetic, and you can draw up his current version of the character in the MCU as being very empathetic and open, because, you know, people who tend to be very meek tend to also be very accepting of others who are looked down on. But he was a white man in the 40s. What's to say he wasn't racist and homophobic? Right?
And sexist.
Yeah. And so what's to say he wasn't those things? And when you said this, the idea, like, he started off in this time era, then got frozen, and then came up in our era, Well, I would almost like to see like not necessarily a story where he's like an ass, but like something to show growth, because that in of itself, that time jump, I mean, you're basically making the argument that he was like one of those few people back then, and I'm not saying that they don't exist, and it's great to see that he was, but you almost want to see a story where like, you know, where we have the original Captain America story, which I actually like a lot of it, but in the first Avenger, where we actually see him stand up against certain things in society, because it's like it's not explained, right? It's not explained that he is or isn't against those things. It's just kind of like, well, yeah, he's meek, so therefore he must be open to everything. Like, no, man, that guy could have hated on people back then because it's what society told him to think and feel. And then he comes up in the new society like 60 years later, and all of a sudden, you know, same-sex marriage is happening, you know, black people are allowed to vote. Like, a whole lot of things have changed.
Yeah, but then would he have wielded Thor's hammer if he was like that, though?
No, I'm
just saying, like, Thor, like, I wouldn't say he wasn't great towards women.
Okay, yeah, good point.
I was like, shut down fast. The point being is, like, all I'm more saying is that you logically have a character who jumps 60 years, and his morals line up with the 2000s, like the 2000s and 10s and 20s, right? Like 60, 70-year jump, he's gonna have something that
he missed.
Are off.
He missed the Vietnam War. He missed the Civil Rights movement. He missed Nixon. And he missed
the rise of LGBTQ as a concept and as a movement.
And he also missed like the Cold War.
Yeah. So, and he missed the inception of the internet and the transference of information being readily accessible to everybody, right? Like, so, like, he came up in an era where, like, information was hard to get and people could control what you knew way easier, right? Which also means that people were more closed-minded because they didn't have access to be like, you say this, but I just Googled what's going on in Vietnam. So what are you talking about, right? I'm watching a video right now of a guy in Vietnam. Like, this, it contradicts your statement, right? So you have all of that, and yet you have a character who has been presented like in the Chris Evans character as being presumably in line with current society, and I'm fine with that, but they never demonstrated it. It's the thing that kind of intriguing for me.
No, I find that to be actually rather interesting. That like if they showed him he was like ahead of his time, like ahead of his time, or if he just his mind just was like he was more capable of being like, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good idea. Like when he got back here, it's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense too. Good for them.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask both of you questions. Chris Evans, Captain America from the MCU, or I'll just say the MCU Captain America, and your specific favorite iteration of Batman. Which do you find you resonate with the most?
So resonates, not necessarily like the most.
Yes.
Okay. I almost want to say Batman, but not because I'm biased, but just more because the Captain America is almost too proper. Like, it's almost like he like Civil War, we got him kind of operating outside of authority, and him standing for what he believes in. I don't know. It's a tough question just because they're both incorruptible.
Which is why I asked it.
And for me, I don't know. I feel like I have to kind of reside with the Captain America a bit more, but for me, the reason being is because, like, I've personally always had, before ironically watching Naruto, I had coined a phrase for myself and then saw the show called my will of fire, And then I saw the show, and then they had the whole concept of Wheel of Fire in the show. And so for me, like, resilience is a big thing, because when I was young, I dealt with a lot of racism, and so I had to keep fighting back against a lot of stuff. And so I learned the word resilience, and then that word is my favorite word in the dictionary. Basically, in the definition I had in my head is like to always get back up no matter what. And so that formed my version of will, and standing for what you believe in and whatnot. And so that, to me, I feel like they both have it. But then I look at that, and I look at like the moral center of Captain America, and I feel like I personally resonate with it more. But which one do I want to see more of as a character? It's going to be Batman. But
I like that answer.
It's just like when I watch Captain America and a lot of the situations he's in, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with him. I'm like when you watch like the Sokovia Accords and stuff like that, I'm like, nah, I'm with Captain. Like I would be like, I'm basically like the Falcon, like the buddy. Like I'm like, yep, all right. Before they even like drop the question and like the needles hitting the table, I'm like walking across. I'm like, yeah, I'm with you, bud.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm gonna have to go with Batman just because of his sheer will. Not the Dark Knight. It was Batman Begins. That line of that Rachel Gould said about it's not training is nothing. It's the will. The will is everything, right? That's something that always stuck out to me in the sense of, Batman was more than just like physical prowess. He had mental fortitude, and that's huge for me. Like, because, as a personal trainer, as a coach,
of course,
I understand fully that, like, you can train until you're blue in the face, but if you're not mentally strong, then that physical training is going to do you no good. Right. And so, that aspect alone in regards to Batman is what really resonated with me the most.
Okay. With me, can't believe I want to say this, but I'm gonna have to go with MCU Captain America, leaving aside the fact that he's a Hufflepuff.
Yo, I knew he was gonna say something like that.
What the fuck?
I was prepping this whole time to be like, yeah, he's gonna say it. Like, I was gonna interrupt you and be like, nah, Scarlet Witch is like what's popping in my head. Is like, pick somebody else. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to circumvent this whole Hufflepuff thing. I knew was coming.
Just like, I don't even want to look at you right now.
That's a whack answer.
No. Like, legitimately, I would say that
my man's a Ravenclaw. And shut up. Let's go.
For me, like I'm with Captain America. Like, he's proven that he's separate from like the institutions and other people. Batman does the same. Problem is, Batman, kind of what you were saying at the beginning, Tactics, he's got issues. Mm-hmm. I love what they said in Justice League Unlimited. It's like you're when he was talking to Wonder Woman. It's like you're like from like a society of like immortal gods. I'm a rich kid with issues, lots of issues. So like he's self-aware about that, and like it's not normal what he does, and his own son is now his Robin, his own biological son who's raised by assassins. His adoptive children have all like grown up fighting on the streets. So with Captain America from the MCU, he believes in people. He doesn't believe in institutions. He believes in people. And he does have the safest hands because he's trying to do what is morally right. And technically speaking, that's in Civil War. That's what pissed off all the governments. The governments of the world were like, stop it. You routinely violate our borders. You do whatever you want. And then you now granted they got their excuse through that explosion. But before then, I could guarantee you they're pissed off that like people were like these superheroes. Now granted, it didn't help that they were Americans, but like if it was a little bit of more of a international group of superheroes that were based in America coming in and like doing all that sort of stuff, kind of fulfilling the old dream that America is the police of the world. But Captain America was doing it, and they're like, stop it, we don't like you doing that. And then so they put in restrictions on him, and he said their agendas keep changing. I kind of believe that too, and that's why Iron Man, I didn't agree with him. Now granted, oversight is needed, and Iron Man definitely had a point, but at the same time, he didn't do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I like personally, just to finish off the podcast, I'm gonna have to go with the MCU, Captain America.
Yeah, and I gotta say, both Batman and Captain America both have gone beyond what the society has told them to do. But I will say that I trust Captain America to do the right thing, whereas Batman, I'm like, I'm sure he'll get there.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. But what person doesn't have issues? We all have issues. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, we don't got baggage like it's like WestJet and like Air Canada's like lost.
Yeah, but he at least he's aware. At least he's self-aware that he's got issues.
I got a warehouse of bags up here that no one's collected.
You got to give him some credit for like at least acknowledging the fact that I'm a fucked up individual, girl.
Yeah.
Most people can't come to that conclusion, but anyway, I guess we'll leave on that note. Before we wrap things up, where can everyone stalk you guys? Give your shout outs.
At Big Geek Umar.
He so didn't know where he is.
I was like, wait, what?
What happened to I am here, Umar?
Yo, you can find me at Music by Darcy on IG. Go there.
Yeah, and you can find me at Tac Division on IG. So yeah,
IG for me too.
Cool.
And I'll put up the link to the video we were referencing a lot in this podcast.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. This has been your boy Tactix.
It's just Darcy.
And this is Big Geek Umar. Live long and prosper, y'all.